Hi, my name is Carlo Volpe,
And I'm Desmond Silva,
and
and
welcome to
welcome to
Centerville
Centerville
Voice.
Voice.
Hey everybody, welcome to Centerville Voice. Again, my name is Carlo Volpe and my good friend Desmond. How are you, Desmond?
Good. How about you, Carlo?
I'm awesome, guys. And thanks so much for watching, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for subscribing and liking and sharing. Don't forget to hit the notification button and be alerted when all of our new videos come out. So, guys, episode number 8. And Des, let's get right into it. We want to talk today about just COVID-19. We haven't really touched on it much, but from every aspect, we'll see where we go from it with it. But the lockdowns, the masks, everything. How do you feel with it? Do you have something that comes into mind when you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Well, first off, is the politics that's going on right now. Jagmeet Singh according to the CBC, he stated that there are links between anti-maskers and far-right extremism, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's crazy. So let's set the stage here. Jagmeet Singh, who is he?
He's leader of the NDP, the New Democratic Party of Canada. So their colors are orange, but he's basically been for a while there. He when Trudeau was part of the majority, was a majority leader of and the Liberals was majority leader, he was like bashing Trudeau, and now they're practically covered in like liberal colors. They're practically the second arm of the Liberals right now. So he's flip-flopped quite a bit.
Okay.
And now he's basically stating that if you're an anti-masker, you are a white supremacist, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's the vast majority, since a lot of the people who are anti-maskers or anti-lockdown are not just, it's not just white folks, it's fairly mixed actually.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the headline says Jagmeet Singh says there's a link between anti-maskers and far-right extremism. But it's funny because is there a link or is there a correlation? Because
Yeah,
correlation is not causation, right? Like you said
exactly.
about wood and fire. What were you saying earlier?
Oh yeah, it's basically like all wood burns, therefore all that burns is wood.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it makes no sense. So what's he doing? Is he just playing to politics? Is he playing to the left side of the party that's saying, or to both parties?
Essentially that's what it is, because it basically saying, okay, um anti-masker, so the white supremacists are anti-maskers, therefore all anti-maskers are white supremacists. It doesn't work that way,
Well,
right?
and not only is he saying the anti-maskers are white supremacists, he's saying anybody on the far right is also a white supremacist.
Well, a lot of people like to say that, right? Then they also like far right extremists. About anyone who's like a far right extremist is a white supremacist. That again is not true. Okay, because
And what's
again
the
it's
far
like,
right extremist too? Because someone on the right at all, is that a far right extremist to someone on the far left? You know what I
and
mean?
the thing is, you get white supremacists on both on the far right and the far left.
Of
But the
course.
thing is, the ones who are on the far left are far more subtle about it, and that's been the way since, as far as we get to like, if you've been listening to Malcolm X, he tells the difference between a racist liberal and a racist conservative, and he trusts the racist conservative more than the racist liberal, because the racist conservative, he will tell you that he's racist,
He's honest
right?
about
You
it.
can
Okay.
trust that what he's saying is because he tells you straight to your face exactly what is on his mind. He's honest about what his stance is. While the
Yeah.
racist liberal is not going to be honest about what his stance is. He's going to be like the way that Malcolm X explained it is that the racist conservative was like a wolf. You could see him coming, right? And he won't. He'll so you know where he stands. But
Yeah.
the racist liberal is like a fox, and the fox is the cunning one, and he'll twist his mouth in such a way that even that he'll look like he's smiling, even
Yeah.
though he's baring his teeth at you.
But being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
Right?
Exactly. And what that means in real life is that you can say what you want to pretend like you're helping minorities, to pretend like you're helping a cause, when in reality, they're just as racist as the other side. I can see that.
Exactly. Now, if you look at a lot of the people who are in, segueing back into the recent protests in Montreal,
Yeah.
if you want to look at people who are anti-lockdown, now there's probably not anti-maskers, because there are a lot of people who are in the protests who are actually wearing masks,
Yeah.
while there are others who were not wearing masks. It was
Yeah.
up to the individual to decide whether they wore a mask or not in that group. So each one for themselves.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of folks that were in there that they're not white at all. You could see if you actually watched the video.
Yeah.
So to say that these people who are not white, like there are a lot of people who are they're South Asians and Latinos and Middle Easterners and probably some few Afro folks in there too, and you can tell that those people are white supremacists, really.
Well, the problem I have with this, Desmond, is that he's putting someone that's considered an anti-masker, which, first of all, anybody who's even questioning masks at all, they're not an anti-masker just because you're questioning masks, right? But let me start there. He's putting someone who's questioning the necessity for masks and the law for masks.
Yes.
He's putting them with lumped them into the same group as far-right extremists, and then also in the same group as white supremacists. All those people are the same as people who are just questioning why does this need to be a law, right?
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Like if you look in certain states like Texas and Florida, or even some other places, these types of things are not law, right?
Mm-hmm.
But businesses can refuse service to customers or people who want to enter into their buildings if they're not wearing a mask.
Yes.
Which is completely up to the business.
Which,
again,
businesses always have the right to refuse service. It's a private place.
Exactly, it's a private place, and they have the right to do whatever they feel that is right for their facility, right? Yeah. So or for their business. So yeah, you can't. So they can deny service for whatever situation if they feel that if it's harmful to them, or even if it's against their beliefs for whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you don't like it, we'll just go somewhere else, go to another store, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the nice thing about it, is being able to be free and being able to respect other people's ideals and their way of thinking. That's what this whole thing is about when it comes to wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. They're not really against the mask as more as they're against the legislation to make it mandatory that if you don't wear this, you're going to be given some sort of charge or a citation or a ticket, or even be put in jail.
Exactly. That's what gets me so mad about
that does that right now is in the Middle East with women who wear hijabs, that it's mandatory according to their religious beliefs that they wear hijabs or they end up getting punished. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what gets me so mad about Jagmeet Singh with the whole just lumping people up, like I said, just really essentially labeling someone who's questioning the mask thing as an anti-masker, as a far-right extremist, and then, like I said, grouping them in with the white supremacists. Is that he's jumping on the side that is saying you can't question anything, right? You can't question anything at all. Now you have a government official, a leader of the party, of the NDP party, right? So they're not the leading opposition, right? But they're a powerful group of people. Mm-hmm. He's saying, well, if you're questioning, essentially what he's saying, if I can read from it, if I was in his party, I would read this message as, well, if he's saying, if you're questioning masks, then you're on the wrong side. You're on the far right side. You're an extremist. You're part of those white supremacist groups. So, like, if I was an NDP, if I was part of the NDP party right now, do you know how pissed off I would be? Excuse my language, but I'd be so pissed off because he doesn't represent me, right?
No. I mean, if you go to any country, regardless of your race or ethnicity, there are people who have opposing views. I mean, even in India itself, you have people on two sides of the fence.
Well, right? Exactly, and the idea, even just saying left or right, it's relative. It's different countries, have different perspectives. And it's even relative to the decade we're in. 2020, like we were talking about episodes ago, in every episode we talk about, in 2020, a liberal is not the same as a liberal in 1985.
Oh yeah,
or a liberal in 1992 1992 when we started high school, right? Or 1993. Things were different back then. And they've been, progressively getting more and more left, which is like hoodwinked us in that term progression. It's not progress always, right? It's not always progress to go left extreme. And that's the problem, is that now we see someone in the government, and it's not surprising that an NDP person is on the left side, but we see someone like him now saying, well, now if he's equating essentially masks, questioning masks to questioning anything. That's saying essentially, it sounds like to me.
I mean, that leads us back to what's happening down in Texas and Florida.
Yeah.
Like Texas and Florida right now, they have the lowest numbers, right? In terms of the COVID virus, they have no lockdowns, no mandatory masks at all.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, though, is that Texas and Florida, their approach was different. The number of deaths that happened last year were a lot more higher in Texas, or not last year, but during the first wave.
Yeah.
In Texas and Florida, they had a lot more deaths per 100,000 people than we had here in Canada. And what happened is, after you reach about 50% of the population affected by the disease, eventually what you have is a lot more people become immune to it. And if we look at the numbers worldwide, just relative to, if you want to see exactly how dangerous COVID-19 is compared to compared to what people actually say it is. Let me take a look here. There we had some numbers on that before.
So while you're finding that, let's talk about that for a second, because in Canada and a lot of places, even in northern parts of the United States and in the western parts of the United States, instead of having the approach like Texas and Florida, what they did was they actually locked down a little bit more severe right away, and kind of kept that level of lockdown all the way, trying to, in my interpretation, trying to flatten the curve, right? Because that's kind of what we're told. But other states like Florida, maybe Texas, other states as well, they didn't really do that, but they kind of had this approach of, let's keep everything open, and this is my interpretation, is that let's kind of go with natural herd immunity, which is interesting to see, because I think they had a high death rates initially, right? But what's going to happen now that they get their herd immunity, which is they're approaching this level now, right?
Yep.
What's going to happen when their death counts come down and ours continue to stay?
They also have higher levels of vaccinations that are occurring, right?
Yeah. They also have a higher, on average, age, because in Florida there's a lot of old people, right? Texas, old people go to the sun for the most part, retirement, right?
Yep. That's another thing. And here we go. So here are the cases. Okay. So worldwide, there have been 160 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 that have actually occurred. 3.32 million people have died of COVID-19 worldwide. Okay. 95.9 million people have recovered.
Wow.
So this is not exactly the most deadliest disease there ever was. As a matter of fact, if you compare that to like,
sorry, Desmond, what was the total infect rate?
That's the total number of people who have.
How many was that?
Infected. 160 million people who have been infected, right? So it's a very infectious disease. It spreads a lot.
Yep.
Right.
It's also very survivable.
But it is very survivable. Okay. 95.9 million people out of 160 million people have survived.
Have been resolved.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's something to say, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Now there are still, of course, out of that means that, I mean, if you add 95.9 million to the three who have survived to 3.32 million people who have died, you get roughly about 99 million people, roughly, right?
Yeah, so there's still a bunch of people that have it, but not died.
So there's still, so there's still about roughly just over 60 million people. Sorry, 60 million people who still have the disease worldwide.
Because we're still in the middle of it. Yeah,
in the middle of it. So that's the current state as it is, as of the current date of this video. Where is this? May 12th, 2021, right? So with that in mind, and also if you want to say that, people go on saying, oh, this is the most deadliest disease in history, that of course is preposterous. If you ever look at some of the most deadliest diseases in history, the death tolls are over 50 million. The swine flu had over 50 million people The Black Death had about I think it was a Black Death or Black Plague it was. If I look correct, this year it was the Black Death. Yes, that was from, and this is from 1331 to 1353. Roughly 200 million people died of the Black Death during that time. If you want to look at that's 200 million.
Yeah.
To 3.25 million is a drop in the bucket by comparison.
So how do we loop that all in? I look at that as it's exaggeration and it's fear mongering, and I think that what Jagmeet's doing, and any politician that's doing it, I think what they're doing is actually dividing us. They're dividing us more and more by left, right, you know, conservative, liberal, whatever it is, and whether it's, I think I don't know if they're trying to divide us, but what's happening is they're dividing us racially in any way. They're dividing us.
And the disease, here's the thing, is COVID-19, let's put it this way, every single virus or disease that infects us, right? Every single virus or bacteria that infects us, it's not trying to kill us. It's trying to survive.
It's true.
Right?
Trying to live with us.
So it's not that it wants to, so it's like humans living on the earth, right? There are humans that do a lot of detriment to the earth, as well as those who try to do good for the earth too, right? So it depends on, you know, how each individual human is behaving. Now, COVID-19, now that we have a lot of viruses and bacteria that actually live in our bodies, and we live just fine with them. We are immune to those diseases, and they'll live with them, you know, just fine. But what happens is with COVID-19 is that it's a new virus. It's come into our bodies and it doesn't know how to adjust. And so it's basically wrecking its environment, us being its environment, right? Yep. Our bodies, and when its host, and it's just causing and wreaking havoc. Now there of course are diseases or viruses that have done way more, like for instance the Spanish flu. Again, this is a flu, H1N1 Spanish flu. So those people who tell me that there's no such thing as the flu being more deadly than the coronavirus, this is one of the most deadliest flus in history, the Spanish flu, okay? And it's H1N1 influenza A, that you had 50 million people who died of, roughly, the 50 million people who died of the Spanish flu.
Yeah,
and that was over the course of the course of 2 years.
Yeah.
1918 to 1920.
So 100 years ago.
Yep. So about 100 years ago.
And let's pause for a second. Just remember, let's think, their record keeping wasn't as good as we are today. It probably wasn't as accurate. It's probably bigger numbers than that, right? Yeah. I mean, their communication wasn't as good. The word couldn't get spread, right? Like, I don't know. It's like you said too, though. Viruses aren't living. I don't know if anybody knows this. I mean, a lot of people know this actually, but let's remind her, viruses aren't living on their own. They need a host. They need us. Yeah. So they actually, like you said, they're not trying to kill us. They want us to adapt to them, and they're going to adapt to us to live symbiotically with us, right? Eventually. And that goes back to the whole herd immunity. And if I can, keep on trying to loop this back to the Sanjeet thing, or the Jagmeet thing, because it makes me mad, because it's like, you have a guy now and a politician, and he's not the only politician doing it, right? Politicians all over the US have been doing it, in New York and California's been doing it. And they're basically saying, if you're questioning this, then you're bad. You're wrong, yes. Right? You're an extremist. No, critical thinking is now extreme.
That's the problem. It's not the issue of, it's basically that they vilify anyone who questions them. Yeah. So that's the problem. That's people
like getting rid of free speech.
Yeah. So like the people who are against having mandatory masks, having mandatory lockdowns, mandatory stay-at-home orders, they're not. It's not necessarily staying home that's the problem. It's not necessarily the mask itself that's the problem. It's the principle of having legislation that forces people, allowing governments to basically having government pass legislation that actually allowing them to force the people to to be stuck at home
and
awful.
forcing the people to live by their rule. And that's the big thing, because the government has been wrong. Let's be honest. The government has been wrong many, many times. Not just our government. Every government has been wrong, and every person's been wrong. We're all fallible, right? So the fact that everybody's wrong, everybody can be wrong, and multiple people can be wrong, makes me even less want the government to mandate something like that. They can have regulations, they can have recommendations, but that's fine. Let your scientists and let the experts give us recommendations. Then I can use my own reasoning to either listen to the recommendation, right, or to not listen to the recommendation. Because when you see like grotesque, just hypocrisy, right? Then like Fauci one day says, "Don't wear masks. It's not necessary." Then weeks later he says, "Yeah, everybody needs to wear them." And then yesterday I saw him say something like, "Well, the reason why we told you not to wear masks is we didn't want there to be a shortage." Yeah, well, when Trump said that, everybody shit on him, but he could.
Yeah.
Fauci can say that it's okay. So it's all that kind of stuff. It's hypocrisy. It's all. The government loses credibility when you give me a line of bullshit, and every time you give me more bullshit, you lose more and more credibility, and then you get a bunch of people that are just pissed off.
Yeah, it's like my parish priest said one time, what's the difference? What's the difference between the Titanic and Noah's Ark?
What's that?
The Titanic was built by experts.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It was built by experts. Well, the Ark was built by an amateur.
There you go.
So
that's true.
Really, like, I've been like, from what I've been seeing, like, especially in some of the, like, I've been doing some of my own like inventions and experimentation stuff like that, and I've been noticing that there are a lot of experts, like university level professors, who I put a question to them, and I tried to ask, and this is in the scientific fields, right, not politics or things like that, and they're like, "This is too difficult. Oh, I don't know how to do this. This is too time consuming. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it." These are,
these are the academics.
These are academics, like master's degrees, PhDs, okay, professors in universities like Lake Superior State University, University of Guelph, University of Master.
I don't know if this is the case with this guy or other professors, but I think that what I've seen is that it's so you have to swim against the waves, you're against the stream, and you have to go against the grain so often now when you question anything, right? Critical thinking is so frowned upon, right, that you're almost labeled a bigot and an anti-masker, you're just labeled an anti-anything if you
go against the grain.
Well, and if it's just critical thing, like science is about questioning. Science is about experimentation and finding, right, and repeatable. Getting repeatable answers, and if you can't repeat the answer, well, then it's not it's not truth. Then
you fact, if you can't get a consistent result. I mean, unless even with quantum mechanics, a lot of stuff has to do with statistics and probability, where you end up with things that are random, right? Sure. But the thing is, those things that are random can still be explained through mathematical equations, right? And math is consistent, right, for the most part.
Exactly, and we're not talking about the quantum level. What we're talking about, right?
We're talking about like just regular level, right?
Exactly, and a lot of it is common sense. And what gets me mad is that the stuff I see in the media. And this is why I'm going to give a shit on the media right now. It's sometimes you'll get a news channel, or will actually have a good article and like this, right, just explaining what Jagmeet said. So there's no whatever, they don't give their opinion on it. But what I get mad at the media, the mainstream media for the most part, is that they propagate this politically correctness. They propagate this, and they push the idea that don't question this. And when someone does question it, they are part of the mob that jumps on, right? The cancel culture and all this stuff. So if a politician comes out and says, no, just because you're questioning mass doesn't mean you're a far right extremist. No, is that person going to be labeled as a bigot tomorrow, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there are other issues that we have to worry about with the lockdowns. For instance, the National Post had an article saying that lockdowns are hurting our mental health and making us feel powerless. That it says there's only so much you can do as you watch your loved ones drown in despair. There's an article by Jamil, I think it's Jamil Javani, from April 8th, 2021. And it basically goes into, what it's like to have a family that suffers from mental issues, and then they hit a pandemic and things get worse, right? And they say more than half of Canadians, about 54% of Canadians, say their mental health has suffered over the past year, according to a recent poll conducted by KPMG, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then if you it says also our southern neighbors are struggling. The Kaiser Family Foundation's research shows that 4 in 10 American adults have battled depression or anxiety since the pandemic, compared to 1 in 10 in 2019.
Wow.
The United Kingdom's Office for National Statistics report a 9% increase in depression among adults in that country.
Yeah.
And if we go and look,
There's no question. I mean, it's not a surprise, right? If people are out of work and let's add it all together, right? So people are out of work. A lot of people's kids are home, right? For the most part, all the kids are home. Even if you're not out of work, you're working from home, so it's more stressful, right? But if you are still working out in the streets, or if you're a civil, service, if you're doing the service industry, whether whatever, a cop or firefighter, whatever, then you're still working out there, but there's more stress because there's a pandemic on top of you.
And
if you're
on top of that,
now you got to police other laws and other regulations, right?
And
whether you agree with them or not.
Jobs, right?
What's that, sorry?
A lot of people have lost their jobs.
That's what I'm saying, lost their jobs completely. So all of this stress is going on. And so, of course, mental health is getting worse. So now, when you question it, like, this is why it gets me even so angry, like, because maybe it's just my mental health not handling it. But during all this stress, now I have the government saying, and they do this all the time, right? This is not a time to question anything. And there's even some government, I don't have the article, but there's even some governments that are pointing towards, oh, that's conspiracy theorists just looking for stuff.
Yeah.
Really? You're having government officials now just saying the word conspiracy theorists because it just, gets rid.
And here's the thing, you got a lot of people, like, for instance, liberals were always very anti-religion, anti-Christian and all this stuff. But look at this. In a recent Gallup survey showed that Americans who belong to a church community have seen improved mental health during the pandemic.
Oof.
Weekly worshipers are the only group surveyed that saw such improvements. Every other demographic group reported a decline in mental health. So that tells a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because just think about it. I can even see people going to church more or doing the ritual of church, whether it's Zoom or not, or even just praying, right? Even in yourself at night or wherever it's, I can see people going to that because if you have that connection, though, that's the problem. If you don't have that routine and you don't have that practice, then the mental health is an issue. What do you think about that? I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like this happens every time something bad happens. People start rushing to God, right?
That's true.
Whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or Hindu or whatever, it doesn't really matter what religion is. You go rush to God in whatever form that you believe God is in, right? For the Hindus, it'd be Vishnu or Brahman or whoever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And they've got many different. The Hindus, it's like one entity as God, but he has many forms, right? And there's basically one form. They argue amongst each other. It's a lot of that's another whole different story.
Yeah. But
anyways, the thing is that they all go back to their religious community, right?
Well, because there is not just comfort in it, but there's actually real value in it, right?
Yes.
And there's mental. There's what am I trying to say?
It's like
stability, mental health.
It's mental health because there's old saying: the family that prays together stays together, right? Wow. And it is so true because I see a lot more families that do pray together tend to stay together a lot more better and they tend to get through hard times better because they have a hope that there's something or someone there who is who's with them through thick and thin all the time. So that's what they have someone who can shoulder that burden with them, right? Yeah. So mentally it takes that burden off of you a bit and allows you to essentially be a little more happier. Essentially, that's what it is, right?
We can breathe a little bit, right? A little weight off your chest.
Exactly, a little weight off your chest. You breathe a little more, right?
Yeah. You know, it's
And
funny. It's funny because people that aren't religious, right, or people that don't have that regular practice, I think they have a hard time seeing that. And me personally, I've even remember, and I even recalling right now how I've had a hard time seeing that or feeling that comfort. And I've been envious of other people that felt that comfort. So I can see the value in people that, that get that. So yeah, I mean, and so then I can also see how it's there's a draw towards it during times like this, right? Even if you're a little bit religious, I can see people maybe being more religious now, or if you're not, maybe be seeking out religion. And this is even another good point why they should not be locking down churches. They should not be locking
exactly,
down
and they're
temples
doing the exact
and
opposite of what they
synagogues
should be doing.
and mosques, right? They shouldn't be
Yeah.
locking those things down.
Yeah, they shouldn't be locked down at all. And what they're doing, and look at what they're doing to the churches and the mosques and
Let's talk about that.
all the synagogues and temples and all that stuff and all these different places of worship is just wrong.
Yeah.
Right. These are the places that they're needed the most right now.
Yeah.
Right. And they're trying to close them up. Right. It's essentially, it's almost like a litmus test that the West is trying that's already been implemented in places like China. Right.
Oh, like a little test, like a little pilot program.
Like a pilot program in a way.
That's scary.
And it is scary because the thing is, the ones who are pushing these lockdowns the most are the vast majority of them are liberals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, here's the difference. Here's what I like about Doug Ford, and there are a lot of people.
Kind of their MO, though, isn't it? It's like big government. Listen to what I do.
Exactly, and listen to what I say. Not listen to what I do.
What I say. Sorry, listen to what I do. Yeah, don't do what I do.
Don't do what I do, but listen to what I say. Yeah. And the thing is, it's if you look at, but this is why the difference between like Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford.
Okay.
Doug Ford, when he makes a mistake, will admit to his own mistake, right? If he did something wrong, he will force it rather, but he will try something, but rather he'll apologize and he'll try something new, right? And that's what happened.
He's made mistakes. I mean, he's not perfect, that's for sure.
Exactly. And that's what I like about the guy is that he at least does that. He doesn't, I have not seen hardly any politicians at all besides Doug Ford who have done that. I've never seen anyone who's done that.
Trudeau wouldn't admit he's wrong if you caught him red-handed.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at the wheat charities, right? The Abakan and all these other scandals that the guy's got under his belt. He's got his hands in the pockets of Chinese investors, and you think that this guy's going to admit to any of this stuff? No, of course not.
Even a couple of years ago with the SNC Lavalin stuff, and
SNC Lavalin. Yeah, I mean, he'll cry a river for the mistakes that other people made, but when it comes to his own mistakes, he won't even apologize.
Well, and then that's what gets me mad when he has this presence about him, or he's trying to give out this message like, do it for every Canadian. Looks right in the camera and says, be a good citizen. And then with, my fellow Canadians. I'm not trying to make fun of him as French, but when he speaks in that, my fellow Canadians and blah, blah, blah. And whatever. You can, his COVID haircut. Come on, buddy. I could cut my hair. You can cut your own hair too.
He's a Jean Chrétien wannabe who wants to try and live up to his father's name. And he can't do half, or not even half, can't do even like a small fraction of what either of those men are able to do.
Is Jean Chrétien still alive?
Yeah. He's still kicking.
I would take Jean Chrétien tomorrow. Most Canadians probably would take Jean Chrétien back tomorrow, right?
I voted for the guy.
Even conservatives, right?
Yeah, I'm a moderate. I'm slightly right leaning in certain ways, but I voted for Jean Chrétien when he went for prime minister.
Well, exactly. And that maybe brings us kind of back to our theme of Center of a Voice right to the beginning, right? Is that there's a lot of people out there, and I believe I'm in that group, is that I don't feel like I have a home anymore. A liberal, a conservative, what is our home, right? Yep. Is there another party that needs to be created? Is there room even discussion around that? Do we have like a libertarian kind of party in Canada?
We do have a libertarian party in Canada, but it's not very big.
No, and is it?
We also have a Marxist party in Canada, but it's also not very big. Thank God.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
It's on the ballot. If anyone who's Canadian, any one of our Canadian viewers, the next time that there's a federal election, take a look on the ballot, and I will bet you that near the bottom of the ballot you will see the Marxist Party. The
Yeah, I've
Canadian
seen it.
Marxist Party. It is a real thing, and you can actually find it online.
Yeah, and don't laugh. I know.
And that's no joke.
It's scary.
So you can actually check that. It's real. I've seen it myself.
Oh.
But yeah. But anyways, back to what we we're talking about with COVID. So there's mental health issues that's happening. People are starting to question the lockdowns, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
says Canadians are still. There's another article by the National Post. Canadians still stuck in the endless lockdown cycle that's there.
Well, exactly. And, you know, and I don't think maybe this is not the right episode to talk about the whole vaccines, because we'll get into that. But another reason that's kind of gotten my feathers all time, you know, in a bundle is that, you know, they right away they said, okay, lockdown, flatten the curve, don't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you know, we're gonna lock down as tight as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it's vaccines coming, and it's take the first vaccine you can. It's all safe, they're all approved. Take the vaccine first you can, you know. Then it's, what are you gonna take, AstraZeneca or Pfizer or Moderna, all these different vaccines. And then now you're hearing that they've halted the AstraZeneca vaccine for Canada over shortage issues, but also possible, you know, safety
Side
issues.
effects.
Okay, so now all those crazy people, right? And let's lump them in with Jagmeet. I said his name right. Jagmeet can call me a right winger, a terrorist, or whatever he wants to call me, a white supremacist, because I'm questioning the whole idea that, you know, I'm questioning the whole government's narrative, and it's not just me. Everybody now, not everybody, a lot of people are saying. A lot of people have been saying the whole time, wait a second. Nope. Don't worry about it. Now they're saying the vaccine is not 100% safe. And a lot of people are saying, well, no shit. You literally rushed this through, pushed it through as soon as you can. Everybody who was against it, or a lot of people who were against it, said, let's give it a year. Let's give it 2 years. Let's see the fact that they've never been able to get another vaccine for coronavirus. All this stuff, but the government saying, no, do it. Be a good citizen, and get your vaccine.
Yeah.
And this is what gets me mad, because now what's going to happen? Trudeau, you know him, he's never going to turn back, and he's never going to say sorry. He's never going to admit that he was their whole party was wrong. What do we do?
Yeah, because my mom and dad, they already got for their first shots.
Yeah, a lot of my family has. Oh yeah.
So the thing is, and my wife has to look at. My wife's a teacher, so she has to go look into it. I was offered the Pfizer. Now Pfizer apparently is supposed to be the best one out there. Right?
It's supposed to be single shot, yeah.
No, that's 2 shots. It's 2 shots.
Oh, it's 2 shots. Okay.
2 shots. Pfizer's 2 shots.
Okay.
But it's the most effective. The single shot one is the least effective.
J&J, Johnson & Johnson.
I think it was Johnson & Johnson there, right?
Yeah.
But one of those ones, I'll put the numbers up on here later on. But the thing is, it's that Pfizer's supposed to be the best one out there for the shot. So if you can get Pfizer, apparently you're good. Right.
But as of today, this is my whole point. As of right now, what if they find out 6 months from now that Pfizer was not so good?
Yeah, we don't know.
All brand
and you
new.
can still catch the disease. You can still catch the disease if you get the vaccine.
If you can still catch the disease, that means statistically you can still die, right?
You can. There's a possibility.
Of course.
But the thing is, what the vaccine does is it lowers the severity of it.
Yeah, so it elicits.
It makes it survivable.
It gives your body a better chance to have a more successful response.
Exactly.
Okay, but there's still a chance you're going to die.
There is a chance.
Of course. No, you can't. There's no way of ruling it out.
Chances have been lowered.
Of course, that's what I'm saying though. But I'm saying is that your chances are going to be lower, but your chance can be lower on an experimental vaccine, right? Yeah. And it's been rushed through. So I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying it's going to hurt you. But what I'm saying is that it's okay, like we were saying at the beginning of the episode, it's okay to question these things, and it should be okay to question these things, and it should be okay to say, I'm going to hold off a year, right, to see what's going on. But at the same time, we're going to get all kinds of social pressure now, right? And this is, I don't know if we can talk about this episode or maybe next episode, but what happens when it's pressure to go back to work, go back to the malls, go back, there's already a travel request, right, for passports. Canada's on board. A lot of countries are going to be on board with that. Slippery slope, man.
I know, and so that's going to be an issue that we got to worry about if they start issuing passports based on if you have a vaccination or not, because that's ridiculous. Because they've been having flu shots for the longest time. No one's ever had. There's so many other diseases out there that you can fall sick of and you can die, right?
Or you can have and no one know. Hepatitis. There's so many different ailments you can have. Contagious diseases that.
Oh yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, if you look at even like if you look at, let's just put HIV/AIDS, right?
Yep.
Now this is ever since like since 1981, 32 million people have died of HIV/AIDS since 1981.
Wow.
So you
40
can
years.
die of that one, right?
Yep.
Then
But the thing is, though, is that if you have
there.
HIV or if you have AIDS, like when you go to travel to the US, they don't want to see an HIV passport.
No, exactly.
There's also no vaccine, probably. I don't know.
I mean, I remember what happened down in the States some time ago. There was a young man who was like, was it probably in his late teens, something like that, as a teenager, and he came from a big town, went over to a small town. Typical story about small town blues. What you do when you get what do you have to do in one of these small towns, except for young folks, except drink and do stuff that you should be doing when you're married, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's you know what I'm talking about. Like, it was even back in Sault Ste. Marie, it was like that. You know, Sault Ste. Marie, that's all they ever do, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then what you end up with is you have a lot of people who are drunk, and a lot of guys who are drunk, a lot of girls, single moms, right?
My liver is still trying to recuperate.
So yeah, but then this guy came. This was like back in like I don't know, late 90s, right? He came from the big city to this small town, and started sleeping around with the girls over there, right, in town. And now here's the thing, is that what people didn't realize is he had HIV/AIDS.
Okay.
He was infected.
Jeez.
And he knew it, and he was going around unprotected with the girls.
Wow.
Right? And then these girls would then sleep around with other guys.
Okay.
And then it started to spread.
Wow.
The police arrested him on charge and charged him with attempted murder.
Holy shit. Wow.
Because the thing is with AIDS, right?
Yeah, it's like criminal.
Kills your immune system, and the next disease that comes in, even if it's the common cold, can kill you. There's nothing else you can do. There's no cure.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, how far, like you said, the slippery slope, right? They're gonna, if you need a passport or if you need a vaccine passport to travel. Well, here's my question: what if I got it? What if I had Corona? Right? What if I had COVID-19 a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to need a vaccine? Why would I need a vaccine? I have natural immunity against it, which is better than vaccine immunity.
Yeah.
No doctor will dispute that. So if it's better than a vaccine immunity, and I don't need a vaccine, but I need my government to say my government saying I need a passport in order to travel. That's the problem with freedom. That's the problem with having, or that's the problem with impinging on my freedom. And that's the problem not only with the freedom part, that's the problem with the government saying you need to do this, because they're saying that we've decided that you need a vaccine to do this. But if you know what I mean, like,
but if you're naturally immune to it, you don't need a vaccine.
Because no one's questioning, why do we need a vaccine? Okay, well, we need a vaccine because it's the disease. Well, if it doesn't apply to you, then you shouldn't have it. And that's the problem with having just across the
legislations like this. Yes,
exactly. And now, honestly, if it was up to the airlines, because I've heard some airlines have said now they want vaccine passports to go on certain airlines. Well, it's okay. I'll choose a different airline. That's capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's the free market. That's how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. So the businesses, the airports want to know if you have the vaccine, or then okay, fine. If you don't want to give that information, you don't have to. You can just go with someone else.
Exactly. And then they would see that, I mean, maybe it'd take a while, but the people who cared about having a company that cares about the vaccine will go to that company. People who didn't, I mean, I'm sure they would still have enough business to go around. And proof of that is look at Texas and look at Florida. Yeah. We got to put a clip up of Texas and Florida, but the bars are wide open. The restaurants are wide open. The clubs are wide open. I saw clubs of 1,000 people jammed in, elbow to elbow. I used to work at a club back in high school and college, right? At Club Princess back in Sault Ste. Marie. You know how?
Oh yeah, the Princess.
You're breathing on you're breathing someone else's air, right? Like you exhale, you're inhaling someone else's exhale. That's how close you are. And so it's going on. I mean, like we said earlier, a lot of sunlight in Florida, a lot of vitamin D. They're outside, they're getting fresh air. and they're not young people. Yeah, there's sure the young people there, but there's a lot of old people too. So, perfect example of like what happens when you just go with like common sense. And is it Governor DeSantis in Florida? Give him credit, man. Give him credit. Also, another thing that he's doing is another episode. They're calling for other parts of the country is calling for defunding the police. He's given his police raises.
Yeah. And all the first responders, not just the police.
All
but
the first responders. Amazing. Hats off to him. That's amazing. And
he's telling all the Portland rioters, if you can't try coming to our town, guess what? We're sending the police. You're gonna be arrested. You're gonna pay fines. There will be consequences for if you try to do what you're doing in Portland.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what color. It doesn't matter. Portland. Exactly.
I mean, people remember. No one tells about what's going on in Portland.
Still going on. Yeah.
Like, for Pete's sake, I mean, there's these large gatherings of people that are protesting and rioting in Portland for months now.
Still
ever since summer of 2020.
Wow.
It's now 2021. We're almost close to it's now May. We're almost close to June. This has been going for almost a year.
Because if my memory serves, the riot started basically after George Floyd.
After George Floyd, yeah.
Around then, yeah.
Around there, because there was George Floyd and two others also, right? And there was a riot for every single one of them. And the thing is, these riots were almost like going from city to city to city, across state lines and all that.
They took over police stations in Portland. Yeah, it was insane.
It was in Washington D.C. It was in Portland, Chicago. It was getting ridiculous.
Well, like I said, hats off to him. But hats off to any governor, any senator, whatever, any mayor that is standing behind the first responders, because like Governor DeSantis said, it's your dad, it's your mom, it's your aunt, it's your uncle, it's your sister. It's like, you know what I mean? And and the same thing, it's a tough job. The same time that I don't agree with the lockdowns and I don't agree with a lot of the legislation, a lot of the rules, whatever. For these officers out there, you know, enforcing these rules, it's not easy for them. It's shitty for them. I don't have an answer for them, and I don't want to judge anybody, but I just got to say my heart goes out to them, because what do you do? Yeah. What do you do if your job is to give out tickets all day that you don't believe in?
Yeah, and here's the thing: take like CNN or something, right? You have a protest that protests the lockdowns. Okay, you have an anti-lockdown protest that goes on down south. Okay, and then you have a BLM protest.
Yeah,
with Antifa in the mix. Okay, and you have the riots and all that stuff that are happening there, right? And see, both of them are large gatherings with a lot of people who are not observing lockdowns.
Yeah.
Okay? But look how they report on them.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Look how they report on them. Okay. The ones that are protesting the lockdowns, these people are reported in very negative light.
Far-right extremists.
Look at what Jagmeet Singh is saying, white supremacists and all that. And
that's common. Yeah, Jagmeet's not the only one. Exactly.
Yeah, and then if you go to the other side, there's peaceful protesters, mostly peaceful, right? You got freaking, what's her name, Maxine Walters, calling for more confrontation, right?
No, I don't
like literally, she is literally and quite obviously inciting violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it just things like the Jagmeet thing. If he's calling me a far right extremist, right? If I consider myself okay, here we go. Here's a scenario. I always abide by the mask rules when I'm working, when I'm out in the public, when I do whatever. And whether I complain about it to myself or not, I still do it and I still smile underneath because I'm a nice person, right? But if I don't agree with them and I consider myself an anti-masker at heart, although I do follow all the rules, right? Do I now consider myself a far-right extremist as well? Because now my leader, Jagmeet, if I'm an NDP, so here's my scenario. If I'm an NDP person, but I question the masks, now I feel like I'm a far-right extremist, or now I feel like I don't belong to his party. What happens?
Yeah.
What happens? Because he's in bed with the liberals. So
yeah, the NDP is in bed with the liberals, which is really sad.
Yeah, maybe him too. Personally, I don't know. But the NDP is definitely in bed with the liberals.
Oh, yeah. And then the problem with the conservatives of the PC is that we, on the federal level, we got no one who with the backbone to actually go up against them.
Well, I'll tell you, in the speaking time, whatever is, when they're question period or whatever it is, and they're always going back and forth. They have a couple of great members of parliament out there in the Conservative Party, right?
Yeah.
Rempel, and then Polivier, what's his name? No,
Oh, you're talking about the defense minister?
no, not defense minister. I'm just saying there are a couple of good people in the progressive side. Who's that? One of the guys who always speaks. Guy glasses, conservative.
Polivier.
Polivier, yeah. He's really good. Rempel's really good. They have a bunch of really good MPs out there, right? But I don't know, man.
Well, Polivier is really good.
Let's wrap this up. What do we want to say about the whole idea of?
Honestly,
I think it's okay to question things, like we always say.
It is, yeah. And just like we always say, it's okay to question stuff. And the thing is that we need, if we want to get through this thing, we need to get the politics out of the way, right? Get the BS out and just start talking facts, and just look at what is the best way. And look at other countries, other provinces, other states, other territories, other nations, and see who have actually been successful at getting rid of the COVID-19 virus. Look at China. It's over. China. It's done. They're open.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a whole other can of worms with that, because the question on the benefits of communism, right? And you can have
that's the other side, right? Because
full power, make swift moves, make big change, and full lockdowns and severe lockdowns. But
here's the thing: is no, they don't have severe lockdowns anymore.
Not anymore, but they did, right?
Oh, they did, but they had it only mostly in Wuhan. It was very localized, right?
Wow.
They locked down the entire city of Wuhan. No one could get in and out, and with good reason, because that was the epicenter of the whole place.
So what if they did that with Toronto? What if they did that with New York City? What if they did that with?
Yeah, I mean, look at and the problem is that they just, okay, this is the area that's affected. This is the area that's going to get locked down. We're going to lock this down, and we're going to work on getting this down. And then what do they do with the kids? That the kids are still going to school, right? Yeah. They made little centers for the kids to check their temperature, right, and sanitize themselves. They have these little stations that look like little robots for kindergarten kids, right? They're about like yay high, like about 2 feet tall or 3 feet tall, just enough for like a kindergarten kid or a grade 2 kid to be able to go up to this thing. They put their face in front of the robot's face. The robot scans them, has one of those thermometers, checks their temperature, and then they go to school with masks.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, like, it all goes back to what we were saying too about the idea that you not be able to admit that they made mistakes. Sure, we don't have all the answers, but they need to be humble. You need to say, we don't know. So if you don't know, you got to go back to common sense. You got to go back to reasoning. You can't. They're living. It sounds like the government is acting like the studies that we heard about helicopter parenting and raising your kids in a bubble. They're treating the people like that right now. I feel like
exactly that's the problem, and it's happening a lot here. Like, here's the thing: like I don't agree with what Xi Jinping is doing in China, right? But when it came down to when it comes to actually doing a task efficiently and effectively, Xi Jinping he's able to do that. Right.
But that's exactly, we have to somehow find a way to get
balance. That's the problem is Xi Jinping is not a balance, he's an extreme.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll ever get that sort of swiftness in operation, because it takes checks and balances. You need to be able to someone to say you're not crazy or you are crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at now, if you want to talk about a country with checks and balances, just look down south in the United States. That's a country that you'll never have a dictator in because the checks and balances that are in place. And they got more viruses, they have more vaccines than any of us. As a matter of fact, according to the news in India, they have excess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And even Canada,
say they have excess.
We're also helping. We're shipping ventilators over there. We're shipping lots of money over there. It's interesting how a country can spend billions of dollars, right, in foreign aid, when they can't even get vaccines for your own country.
Yeah.
Where do vaccines come from? India? They
Oh,
do.
India's asking for vaccines and for ventilators and all that stuff because
But don't they come
India
from
has a
India?
much bigger population, right?
Sure, but aren't our vaccines made in India or no?
No,
I think
Pfizer and all this stuff. These are made. I think they're made down like Johnson and Johnson is an American company, right?
no, I know they're, but I thought they were made
Most
in
of these
India.
are big American companies. Huh?
Yeah. Okay, but they're not made in India. I thought they were one of them.
They know what happened is that I know Bill Gates, he sent a bunch of these vaccines down to India and gave them to poor people in India, and
Something else
no,
before.
that was something else.
Yeah.
That was.
But I thought India was part of the one of the countries that were developing this vaccine. They're not.
They are working on it. Yes, they are developing
Okay.
their own vaccines and stuff like that, right? So they are part of the fight. So it's not like they're not. But the thing is that they need a lot more than anyone else does.
Well, they're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I'm not against helping any country. Certainly not against helping India, right, or any country. But it's like, and that's the other thing too. I heard on the news the other day that they're having daily cases of 2,000 people, and I stopped for a second. 2,000 people. Last time I checked, there's 1 billion people in India. Right? 2,000.
Yeah, the population of India. It's
about 1 billion.
let's take a look here about the Indian population.
Why is CTV reporting that there's cases of 2,000 people a day in the country with corona? I don't understand that. Maybe my figures are wrong. But 2,000 people out of 1 billion doesn't seem like a big number.
1.366 billion people as of 2019 live in India.
So that's 1,600,000,000.
Yeah, they're just behind, but behind China by a bit. The United States have 328.2 million people as of 2019, and the China has about 1.398 billion.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
So China, they're basically saying that the United States has enough vaccines to vaccinate everyone, and they're hoarding vaccines right now.
Wow.
So that's what the Indian news is saying, and they're very highly critical of the United States government right now.
Wow.
Because they're proclaiming, and because you got Biden in power right now, and Biden is basically like saying, "Oh, we're all inclusive," and they're spouting the whole rigmarole, the whole rhetoric that they do.
Like you were saying, that's the kind of the Fox's view of the left, right?
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, you guys are inclusive and all that stuff. Okay, well, you got so many vaccines in excess. Why not give some to us? Send some over here. We'll pay for them, right?
Yeah.
We'll send them our way. We need them.
All right, Des, let's wrap this up, buddy. In closing, I don't know. I just think it's okay to question things, right? Like we were saying, critical thinking is necessary. You need to do that. You need to be able to question reason, right? You need to be able to say what's going on. Do we have any advice for anybody? I don't think we should back down.
If someone tells you that, anti-maskers are bad and all these anti-lockdown folks are bad, I'm like, no, they're not bad. They just have a different view, and they're just questioning why are you impeding on my freedoms with laws that could be used to essentially strip more freedoms later on, because if they can do it, if they allow the government to do it now, and what's going to stop the government from trying to do it later, right?
Exactly. And quite honestly, I have more of a problem with how Jagmeet positioned it and how he's talking. I have more problem with that because he's grouping.
That's ridiculous.
That's the problem. More than most people have with even anti-maskers. A lot of people that are pro-mask, or it's just not anti-mask, right? They look at anti-maskers with pity sometimes, or they say, I don't know why you guys understand, or you guys are crazy maybe. But what he's doing, and I'm really shitting on him today, so maybe email us. Maybe they'll email us.
Yeah.
But what I don't like what he's doing is that he's grouping everybody together. He's painting us with the same brush.
Yeah, he's painting with a broad brush. Again, like I said, all wood burns, therefore all that burns is wood. That is the philosophy of Jagmeet Singh. Guess who said that? Monty Python.
Prophet, if any of it. All right, buddy. Thank you so much, Des.
You too there, Carlo. We'll see you all in the next video.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Hi, and thanks for watching this episode of Centerville Voice. If you like what you see, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, also click on the notifications icon to make sure you'll get notified on all of our new episodes every Friday. By sharing and liking this episode and all of our episodes, it really helps to promote the channel. And by sharing these episodes, it helps to promote our word and get the word out. If you like what you see and hear, please consider becoming one of our supporters on Patreon. 10% of all Patreon supporter donations we receive go directly to our charity of the year. This year, our charity of the year is the Terry Fox Foundation. You can visit us at centervillevoice.com to learn more and engage with us on one of our social media platforms. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Peace.